Hi, Jason.
Great to see you again. Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Jason. I'm the legislative chair for the San Fernando Valley chapter of the California Rifle and Pistol Association. And before I get into the report, I do want to actually start with some scripture from the book of Isaiah. Woe to those who enact evil statutes and those who constantly record unjust decisions so as to deprive the needy of justice and rob the people of their rights. So I think this perfectly describes what's happening in California right now. And our rights are currently under a calculated and sustained attack by these activist legislators and activist judges throughout the Ninth Circuit. And to be frank, they're on the wrong side of history here. It falls upon us to advocate and defend these sacred rights that we have from God and this beautiful nation that He's given us. So one of those rights is that right of self-preservation, that right to keep and bear arms, as so succinctly put in the Second Amendment to our Constitution. You know, although the text itself may be short and sweet, the implications are prodigious. Our God-given right to self-preservation must not be cast aside, and we must defend it from all tyrannical and belligerent assailants. You know, despite the circulation of these illegal arms from criminals all over the place and leftists trying to say we need to get rid of everybody's guns for the purposes of public safety, none of that works, okay? And, you know, we always say on our side, well, gun laws don't work, they only affect the law-abiding. Well, yeah, but really think about what that actually means. It only affects the law-abiding, it only affects you. It means that your access to firearms in a timely manner are bound by inane time constraints that depend on the government's blessing on when they think you should have guns. And that's why we have a 10-day wait period. It means that when you find yourself in a self-defense situation, you know, God forbid that you do, the government is trying to mandate how many bullets you can keep in your gun. And that's, you know, there's your magazine capacity right there, the ban on high-capacity magazines. The overtaxation in California, the 11% excise tax that aims to price you out of your right to defend yourself. All of these problems are very, very duplicitous, I think, when it comes to the Second Amendment in California. You know, the list goes on, but right now, I'd like to go through all the legislation that we need to really be paying attention to here in California. The first one is going to be Senate Bill 948. Now, this one would mandate 8 hours of state-mandated training in order for you to obtain what's known as the Firearm Safety Certificate. That's a little card that you get that lets you do the background checks in California. Now, imagine for a second if any of our rights in the Bill of Rights were treated like the Second Amendment is in California, like a second-class right. Should you have to take an 8-hour class to speak freely or pray? Should you have to take an 8-hour class to be free from unwarranted searches and seizures? And how about you? Would you like to take an 8-hour class to have a trial by jury? No, the Second Amendment is singled out unfairly and unjustly in California. And make no mistake, I'm all for responsible gun owners training with their firearms. But when the government is using training as a weapon to put another burdensome roadblock in your way, that's a problem, because not only is it going to be more expensive for you to exercise your right, you know, hundreds of dollars later, then you might not even be able to afford the gun you wanted. And all the shooting ranges around don't have the capacity to have myriads and just thousands of training classes that are required to get your FSC card. So good luck scheduling an appointment with your local shooting range, you know, months in advance. So it's another time constraint on your access to firearms. And you know, the thing that I find really unfortunate about this one is this bill was actually defeated last year. We knocked this bill out in the assembly, but Senator Arreguin, who is reintroducing this bill, he just said, okay, let's just try it again. And you know this bill is bad when last year the Democrats in the state of California said we didn't have money for it. So we're fighting back on this bill. We're going to make sure that this doesn't see the light of day, hopefully out of the Senate. Next up, we have Assembly Bill 1743. Now this one has some pretty major privacy concerns where it would authorize the California university system, the community colleges, to have access to your personal information. How many of you in this room are gun owners? So would you all be comfortable with your information going to some community college student to then be used to promulgate more anti-gun rhetoric and anti-gun studies, and to try to make it so that, oh, look at this neat little study I have, which is already left-wing and leaning in all this partisan manner. And then, yeah, you get your information basically sold to the highest bidder at who wants to conduct these anti-gun research programs. It's pretty bad. I don't think we should trust the government with our personal information here, especially since the Attorney General a couple of years ago leaked concealed carry permit owners' information. Not looking good here. So we are definitely going to be fighting back against this bill. Now, I do want to mention some positive things, of course, but it's always our job to be vigilant. In regards to CCWs, actually, this is a perfect segue. We did make some inroads earlier this year in the Capitol with our WAVE program. That's the Women Armed to Vote and Educate. It's a great program for women to get involved and learn more about the Second Amendment and how to fight back. The results have been quite interesting. We have Assembly Bill 1948, and basically what this bill would do is make it so that new CCWs are valid for 3 years instead of 2. And then when you go to renew it, it'll be valid for 6 years. Hey, that sounds pretty good. Right now, CCWs are only valid for 2 years, and you gotta renew it, and then it's another 2 years. So expanding the validity of your CCW is definitely a good thing. But unexpectedly, and this is where we have to be very vigilant, this bill was introduced by 2 Assembly Democrats, okay? So right now, it appears as if Assembly members Ramos and Valencia are acting in good faith when it comes to this bill because they met with our group earlier in the year. But like I said, be mindful, pay attention to this bill. Let's make sure this isn't a rug pull, because we know how treacherous Democrats have been in the past when it comes to gun control. So we're going to keep our eye on this. If this bill stays in its current form and nothing else happens, this is a good bill to support that will help expand CCW access to people. You know, not only that, but all the police departments and sheriff's departments out there, it'll help spread the load a little bit when it comes to the issuing and the hundreds and hundreds of people they have to vet. So it'll help drive down costs of CCWs. This could be a good thing if it stays as it is. Now, I could spend all evening getting into the intricacies and getting into all that. But if you do want to have a deeper insight as to what's going on with the Second Amendment, I highly recommend that you all go to our website, that is CRPASFV.com. We have a monthly legislation report that will go through the dozens of bills that have been introduced so far in California pertaining to the Second Amendment. But I would like to summarize some of the other CRPA-backed bills from this year. So Senate Bill 1021 from Senator Choi. This expands access to hunting and fishing for children with life-threatening illnesses. Assembly Bill 1912 lifts the prohibition on concealed carry while deer hunting during archery season, because that's been a ban for quite some time now, and it's time we get rid of it. You know, we have some other ideas in the works right now with legislators up in the Capitol, and some more CRPA-backed bills should be coming out hopefully soon, but only time will tell, of course. Now, legislatively, CRPA, we're active, we're in the Capitol, we're meeting with legislators, we're coming to events like this to let you guys know what's going on, but we're also active in the judicial system. We're suing the Attorney General over the enforcement of these unconstitutional gun laws, and our arguably most famous case right now, Duncan v. Bonta, is up at the Supreme Court waiting for them to grant the petition of certiorari. This is our challenge to the state of California's magazine capacity limit. The Supreme Court better take this one, because if they don't, millions of Californians could become felons overnight over what should be constitutionally protected behavior, having your standard capacity magazines instead of just your 10-round magazines. You think criminals care about that when they try to kill you? They have all their magazines, but you should only be relegated to 10? Yeah, I don't think so. So the stakes have never been higher in a case like this. So we are committed to protecting the Second Amendment and the Constitution, and above all, everyone here in this room and the American people. So to conclude, I would encourage you all to contact your local legislators, your assembly members, your senators, tell them to oppose those gun control measures I mentioned tonight, and support the CRPA-backed legislation I mentioned to you all tonight, so we can try to chip away at some of this despotic and bureaucratic gun control here in California. So if we are to save our republic, we must lay the groundwork right now Because honestly, California is worth saving. This country is worth fighting for. We must do this for ourselves and our posterity. The work is difficult, but anything worth fighting for is going to be difficult, and it will call the righteous up to stand up for what they believe in, to stand up for this country. And of course, above all, let us appeal to you, Almighty God, for your guidance and protection against these people that want to strip our rights away and help anoint the righteous to fight back, to make your gift to us, the state of California and the United States of America, great again. Let us all adopt the maxim that Thomas Jefferson affixed onto his personal seal: rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God. Let us be reminded about where our courage comes from. Psalm 144, verse 1. Blessed be the Lord, my rock, who trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle. And as iron sharpens iron, let us remember our duty to each other. With firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Thank you, and may God bless the United States of America.